So a quick introduction to Vizuri before I jump in. We are a big data marketing company that helps marketers acquire and engage customers through personalized marketing offerings, right? Well-funded, very much a startup, raised about $27 million in funding so far across 3 rounds of funding, Series A, B, and C. Roughly about 250 plus employees and growing fast, more than 600 clients, a sample of which you see there on the right. Offices predominantly across APAC and across Latin America. Yeah, and some of the awards we won there. The FOMA award is particularly notable. We won it with Etihad Airways last year under the smart use of data category. I'll talk about some of the things in the presentation. Right, so enough with jargons. Let's read that sentence right there. Activate omni-channel marketing using your online and offline data across channels, including second screen engagement for personalized advertising that is powered by predictive analytics and is optimized with programmatic buying for a marketing strategy that works. Now, if some of you in that audience out here is thinking, yep, that makes perfect sense, there is no hope for you. So this presentation is not for you. Just joking, sorry. Yeah, so there's a lot of jargons there, right? So what I want to do is just pick about 5 of these jargons. Is that 5? Yeah, 5. And try and walk very quickly. Instead of concentrating on the jargon itself, I just want to sort of give you a quick explanation of what that potentially could mean and how a straightforward use case can be implemented that actually makes it a lot more intuitive and sensible, right? Great, so let's go ahead and pick those jargons out here and try and see what we can do about it from an actionable perspective, right? So let's de-jargonize with some straightforward use cases. Offline and online marketing. So what does that mean? In simple terms, it means 2 things. One, it means the ability to bring together your offline data and combine it with your online data, right? So for example, your online data is the data that is getting generated on your website, on your app, and on your mobile website and any other property you might have. And offline data represents some of your other touch points. It could be a loyalty data, your CRM data, your debit card transaction data, right? Your policy holder data. It could be all of that. So the ability to bring that together and drive 2 use cases. The ability to use your offline data and power your online marketing that you're doing, and vice versa, which is the ability to take the online data and see if you can find a way to push that into your offline marketing campaigns, right? So here is a straightforward example. Let's take a bank, and let's take one user of that bank, and these are sort of the transactions that the bank, that the user is doing. And let's say this represents the debit card transactions for the last 2 months. What you can clearly see there is that the user is a regular Myntra customer, right? So he's doing a lot of transactions on Myntra. So which means the next time the user comes to the website, to your bank website to do a transaction, you can use this offline customer data that you have about him and personalize the landing page of this user. So what have you done? You've taken data that is more or less pure offline, and you're using that to power an online experience or an online conversation and offer a very relevant sort of experience for the user, right? So this is offline to online. Great, let's take the next one. Omni-channel personalization. Now that's a big one, right? Again, in simple terms, it essentially means 2 things. One, that what you want, the marketing that you're doing fundamentally is at a user level. Therefore, you have one message for one user. And therefore, the channel itself becomes redundant. You should be able to push the same product or the same message to the user, irrespective of the channel where you find the user, right? So that's really what omni-channel personalization could mean at a high level. So what is the simple way in which you can action it? So let's take registered users. If you know you have a registered user or a loyal user that's transacting with you a lot of times, and you have identified one relevant offer for that user, you should be able to take that offer and push it everywhere that you see the user, whether it is on your own website, that means that comes under site personalization, whether it's a push notification that you do to the user's phone, whether it's a display ad that you buy through programmatic means, whether it's an SMS that you send the user, whether it's a social channel that you show an ad to on the news feed potentially, or whether it's an in-app advertisement. So the idea really is that you try and capture the user at all channels, and you're able to show that one unified conversation with the user, right? Great. Programmatic, I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on this. Gary did an outstanding job, and I think the description that he gave there a minute back was bang on. He said programmatic buying, and I think that was the CEO of MediaMath that said it. The programmatic means two things. It means your media buying process is automated, number one, and number two, it means you're using a lot of math or a lot of analytics to really drive intelligent marketing, right? So let's take a different example here. Let's take the example of an airline, right? Now, before I jump into this use case, you should know that airlines have this concept of distressed routes. Some of you people might be aware of it. Distressed routes are those routes where either because there is low demand or because your price points are not competitive, generally there isn't too much of transactions happening on that route, so the fill rates are going to be low, right? So let's consider this example where let's say there's a user that searched for Amman to New Delhi on the 25th of August, and that represents a distressed route, right? That means it's not selling well enough. And let's say the user dropped off, which is obvious because your price point probably is not competitive, right? Maybe there's somebody else, or maybe there are many other players offering competitive routes, right? So what you want to do ideally is two things. One is you want to let this user know, hey, don't walk away from me. I can give you a discount, and a pretty heavy one at that. But at the same time, you don't want to make this a mass discount. You don't really want to throw a discount out there that goes on Skyscanner or one of these travel value buying websites and just starts getting used all over, right? So you want to really personalize it. So how can programmatic media do it? First is you can, using programmatic, and as Gary mentioned it before me as well, reach the right user at the right time with the right offer. So you can actually say, hey, approach this user and tell him, Amman to New Delhi, you can get a 20% discount, book now. And there are interesting things you can do with this as well. You can actually say, you can keep this discount time bound, right? So you can do all that. The other thing you will notice is the ad need not necessarily just have the coupon code printed on it, right? Because once the coupon code is public, it can land up on many other places, right? So now what happens is if the user clicks on this ad, you can take him to a landing page where the discount is actually pre-applied, right? So what do you achieve as a process because of this? Programmatic buying has enabled you to push through your distressed route inventory and clear it while ensuring that the discounts that you're giving is not going mass, is not really, it's not a public promotional code, right? So that's one way in which you can use programmatic and make it work for you. Great. Predictive analytics. This is one more big one. Again, if I were to give a very quick summary of predictive analytics, it means two things. The ability to use big data, and big data means volume, variety, velocity, right? Being able to use a lot of data that is coming through, crunch that, and be able to predict which user is going to buy what and when, right? That really is what predictive analytics is about. So how can you make predictive analytics work for you? Let's take two users that are interacting with an insurance, are potentially in market to buy insurance policies, right? So let's take user A. He has actively researched insurance policies for 2 weeks, and you know that because he could be visiting your website multiple times. You also know that because he could be a heavy user on financial portals through the last 2 weeks, right? Relative to the average. And let's say he also made 3 visits to a very specific plan, right? And he also filled up the inquiry form, user A. User B, on the other hand, visited once, and they visited 3 days back, dropped off from the home page, and potentially has interacted with the call center once before, right? So it's fairly obvious that of these two, if you put predictive analytics to work, it essentially means that the system will be able to distinguish that user A on the left has a greater propensity to buy an insurance plan relative to user B on the right, and assign a score appropriately, right? And this score, therefore, can be used to preferentially give treatment to the user on the left, right? So now, obviously, this is a simplistic example where you're using 3 variables and just 2 users. Predictive analytics allows you to do this over millions of users using dozens of variables, right? So that's really where predictive analytics kicks in. So the ability to do this across millions of users makes it very, very valuable, right? And by the way, predictive analytics can also form a right input into your programmatic buying, right? So it allows you to figure out which users you want to target and which users you don't. Great. Second screen engagement, last one. So second screen engagement again means simply 2 things, which is the ability to connect how your TV ads are impacting your online behavior, right? And therefore, once you've sort of figured out who are the people that are responding to your TV ads online, be able to treat them differentially, right? To be able to continue an engagement with them and push them down the funnel, down the buying purchase funnel, right? So how do you do that? So let's take TV analytics and TV attribution allows you to do that. Essentially, let's say your ad is being aired from Monday to Friday on specific slots, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. slot. And let's say that's an ad that the user is being consistently exposed to repeatedly for about a week or more. And therefore, the user has subsequently visited your website. Now, what you can do is you can therefore use TV analytics to understand a bunch of insights. So you can, for example, say certain channels, let's say AXN, is creating immediate impact. And it's creating an impact more often than not relative to another channel, right? And that's something that's very clear and discernible when you overlay your TV advertisement data on top of your site behavior data, right? You can also do creative testing. It's very obvious, and we've seen these reports where certain creatives obviously produce instant and more discernible lift relative to other creatives. So if you're sort of doing creative experimentation, this is one other way of judging whether your creative is performing or not, right? And of course, you can do a lot of channel effectiveness as well. You can identify channels and ad slots which are performing better. You can also do a lot of understand the latency of your ad. So potentially, one thing that we've seen is that if you're doing heavy advertising through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, your Monday, and even if you're not advertising on a Monday, your sort of lift from TV stays more or less as a straight line, which tells you that there is a latency effect through the weekend into Monday, right? And you can also do interesting things like for example, for this particular e-commerce player, the second spot right after the ad slot start is more effective than the first. So yeah, so these are a bunch of things that you can do, 5 such jargons that I wanted to try and demystify, and hopefully I'm doing good on time here and helping save all of you about 5 to 6 minutes, right? And putting the program back on track. But yeah, so let's de-jargonize. Let's talk simple marketing to conclude with. So rather than getting too caught up with the jargon, the important thing is begin with simple use cases, wow your customers with a brilliant experience, and more importantly, push your marketing technology partners. They are the people who are supposed to take the use cases that you're giving and make it actionable. And when you push the marketing vendor, marketing partner, that forces innovation, and that effectively pushes the envelope. And see, I just ended with the jargon right now. So now that I've managed to end with the jargon, thank you for your time. Right.